session is called BIDS 101 and understanding what is called the request for proposal, or better known as RFP. Now, requests for proposals can be either service, most likely service and goods, or just services. So you can purchase some equipment or hardware or whatever under an RFP if that's permissible. Now, there are several different types of solicitations that government agencies use to solicit goods and services. And we will be going over a solicitation for requests for proposal for this session. Okay, you can move to the next. There we go. The RFP uses certain criteria that is requested by the proposer to be placed into their proposal. The information provided in your proposal is all subjective. This means that one committee member may see what is in your proposal as very impressive, while another committee member may not see your proposal in the same way as the other committee member. So it's quite different from what is called an ITB, which is an invitation to bid. Now, further along, this is very important. There is a section in the RFP that is called minimum eligibility. This section requires you to agree to the liability section, General Conditions 7.1. We will be going over that later when I show you a sample of an RFP that I've done for speech language pathology services. Provide executed documents, provide proof of experience, and any other materials that are requested for the service to be procured. So it's very important that you read this section, and if the section states we need to have a certification for a speech language therapist, please provide a copy of your certification, your current certification, not an expired certification, a current certification for the person who is going to perform the service for the district. Now, if it's a single person, which we do allow under this bid, if individuals who are a speech language therapist can also put in a proposal, as well as a company or firm. So it would be different for a company or firm. What you would do is provide samples of that certification of any employees that you'll be hiring for this contract, to provide samples of their certification and their capabilities for this contract. So we can move to the next slide. Now, the RFP is set up in 4 different ways here. It asks for experience and qualifications, scope of services, the SMWBE participation program, and cost of services. So what I'm going to do is just give you a brief sample right now of the types of questions that could be asked for experience and qualification, scope of services, cost of services, and the SMWB participation program. So for an example, for experience and qualifications, they could ask, how long have you been in business providing speech therapy services? And then in your proposal, you would elaborate on that question. Another question is, has your company provided services to students in grades K through 12? And another type of question that can be provided, asked for in the RFP, is to provide copies of resumes of hired employees who will provide speech therapies for the district. So these are the types of questions that would be asked under experience and qualifications. So our next slide is the scope of services. And basically, this is the section that provides the work that is to be performed under the RFP. For an example, awardees shall provide services for speech language pathologists and/or audiologists that hold a current active professional license in speech language pathology or audiology according to Florida law. Okay, we just kind of mentioned that before. And so for a single proposer, this RFP can be provided by a single proposer or a company or firm. The proposer must have a current active license, a professional license for speech language pathologist or audiologist issued by the Department of Health from the State of Florida Board of Speech Language Pathology and Audiology. So basically, for the scope of services, there are 3 different sections that says, yes, you can comply, and I will show you an example of this. Yes, that you can comply with that. The second one is I can comply, but with these deviations. And then the third column is no, I cannot supply this person, or no, cannot follow that type of scope of service. And again, for the company profile, proposer must provide a sample of candidates that have a current active license, professional license for speech language pathologist, audiologist issued by the Department of Health and so forth. Basically what it states up there, but you're providing candidates that you wish to propose for the RFP. You can go on to the next slide. Okay. Now we're going to talk about cost of service. This section provides the cost that SBBC will pay for the services rendered. And of course, this is asked within the RFP because you want to be paid. For speech pathologist, it will be basically what is the cost per hour, or for an audiologist, what is the cost per hour. So we'll move on to, usually in the RFP, your cost is compared with other proposers. And your cost would, and what I mean is compared is, okay, who offered the lowest cost for that would get the maximum points. And then we look at the next vendor or bidder to find out their price is slightly higher. We divide those 2 prices and come up with a percentage. So for an example, if we have 20 points allotted for that cost section, you would take that percentage and multiply it by 20, which was the maximum point value, which will give you your actual point value for that cost of service for that vendor. It'll make more sense once I go through and show you an exact copy of an RFP. But I just wanted to prepare you so that when we come to it, oh yeah, that makes sense now. And then the 4th section is the Small Minority Women Business Enterprise SMWBE participation. Now, again, this is very important because number 1, it's getting you the business, first of all, and number 2, being able to provide other participation from subcontractors that can help perform the service for you. This area will determine if the primary bidder, and this what we are terming as the primary bidder, is the one who submits the proposal, has registered and has been approved for small business, minority, or women-owned enterprise by the Economic Development Diversity Compliance, or EDDC office. Or if you're not registered or considered as the primary bidder under that type of certification, you can have subcontracting, which EDDC has determined if a certain percentage requirement, for example, 3% of the total contract value, has been offered by the proposer meeting the RFP requirements. This will be discussed by the EDDC department. So part of this program, EDDC will go over what is requested for you to be able to register and how to participate in awarding a subcontractor as part of your contract, with a certain percentage here showing what they require in order for you to obtain a certain point value for your proposal. Okay, we'll move to the next slide. By issuing a request for proposal, the buying agency is asking interested vendors to submit more than just price they would charge to complete the contract. An RFP requires vendors to offer suggestions or ideas on how the work should be completed. So if we basically know that we need an audiologist, okay, you basically could come back and say, based on the scope of services, this is what we recommend, okay? The committee will take that into consideration when the evaluation comes through with that. So essentially, to providing consulting services in addition to the actual work outlined in the contract. RFPs prompt vendors to create customized proposals and encourages them to suggest different approaches to the same project. The more solutions a vendor can suggest, the more they will stand out from their competitors. An RFP using scoring to determine a ranking of proposals. So basically, what makes an RFP different from an ITB is we use scoring to help us determine the ranking of proposals. Where in ITB, it's basically price is the most important, and also meeting the terms and conditions of the ITB as well. The ranking is used to determine who goes first for the negotiation session. So if you're the first one, that doesn't necessarily mean you have the contract. It's basically when we go through negotiation session, you would be the first one that we talk to regarding that the negotiation session. Now, during a negotiation session, you can either negotiate price, you can negotiate terms and conditions, except for a few that I will mention later, and any sorts of suggestions on the scope of services as well. So negotiation is very good in the sense of we can basically take your proposal and make it more useful for when we use the contract. It is the committee's decision who they want to award to the services to. So in other words, the committee, after the negotiation session, will determine who they want to award the contract to. Now, they can award it to a single vendor, or they can award it to multiple vendors. Now, the RFP that I'm going to go over today is awarded to multiple vendors because the services for speech language pathologist, that would be kind of hard to service the whole district basically using one vendor. That would put a lot of stress on the vendor to be able to provide an audiologist for 200 schools. So we do have a multi-award set up for this so that if a vendor is unable to have a speech therapist or an audiologist go to a school, they have the flexibility to call a different vendor to be able to fulfill that position. So again, that also leads to being part of a pool of awarded vendors rather than just having one vendor. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, Now, this is also important when you're doing business with the school board. Our bids are basically sent out through what is called demandstar.com. They're our official method of distribution of Broward County Public Schools solicitation. By registering with this company, you will receive notifications of a released invitation to bid or request for proposal under the commodity code you register. So if you are providing therapy services, they provide a bunch of commodity codes that you would pick to put within your company's setup with DemandStar. So for an example, if you provide therapy services, I'm just giving out a random number here, but like 952, they have set up for therapy services. Then you would check mark or register under that number so that when I put an RFP out for, say, speech language therapy services or occupational physical therapy services or psychological services or psychiatric services, you would fall under that commodity code, so you would be notified. For example, if your company, again, provides therapy services, then you would register under that commodity code for therapy services. Now, it's important to know that Procurement and Warehousing Services Department does not provide or send copies out of the ITBs to vendors. You would either have to register with DemandStar, and by registering with them, when you obtain a copy of the RFP or ITB, by doing that, we make sure that any addendums that we send out, and these are corrections to pages or whatever within the RFP, that you receive it. So you want to make sure either you register with DemandStar or, and again, that there is a fee for that, which you would need to contact them for, or you can download individually the RFP directly from their website. There is a small fee, I think it's maybe like $5 or something like that, to download an individual RFP. Now, again, by downloading it with DemandStar, we can let you know that you will receive addendums, and the addendums are very important because it can literally change anything in the RFP. For example, cost of services. If there was a mistake that it was a flat fee and we're changing it to an hourly price, you definitely want to know that so that when you submit your proposal, that is correct and meets the proposal's conditions. Now down here is the website link for DemandStar. And clicking on this, you'll be able to follow the steps to register with DemandStar. And the link down here, again, is for our link that we provide so that you can see what has been released by Broward County Schools of all the ITBs and RFPs that have been released. So you'll want to basically go to this site and it shows you what is being released from Broward County Public Schools and the due date that is required for that. Now, I don't know whether if I have another slide after this.
So this is the end of your slide, Chuck, and we will place the sites that you were just referencing in the chat so that it's easily accessible for everyone. But this is the end of the slide for this portion of it.
Now we need to bring up the bid the RFP that I sent you for the speech language therapy.
Okay, sure. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and share again.
Okay.
In the meanwhile, would anyone like to have a 2-minute break? Or if you would like a 2-minute break, you could go ahead and place that in the chat so we'll know to give you.
Or maybe if you might have some quick questions. before we go on? I guess not.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and pull that up.
Okay.
1 second.
Oh, it looks
Okay.
like Jared
Mm-hmm.
has a question.
1 second, Jared. Okay, you can unmute your mic, Jared.
Okay, hey guys, thanks so much for having this. My wife and I have had the certification now since 2017, so we've had it for a minute, but you know, navigating through the bidding process is kind of daunting, especially for a small business, since we already have so much to do, trying to learn all of this. And some of these contracts that we've looked at are like 60, 70 pages long, and it's like, oh my goodness, you know, who's going to read this? So we do appreciate this. My question is in particular to our industry. We are printers and embroiderers. We specialize in custom apparel, also event displays and marketing materials. Do you guys ever send out RFPs for this type of thing for our industry?
I believe yours would probably be more of an ITB because we're actually getting a physical product. Okay.
Okay.
So usually when you're buying a physical product, that's going to be an ITB, but okay, it can be an RFP if the purchasing agent decides to go that method. Okay. But I can tell you mainly printing and stuff like that would probably be done on an ITB.
Okay, I signed up for that course also, and I'm gonna stay here because you know the more education we get on this, the better.
Well, you'll have me as an instructor for that one too.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. And it's definitely nice to meet you.
Same here. Same here. So again, you know, look out for our RFPs and bids that come out on DemandStar or the link that I provided from our website. What that is the Procurement and Warehousing Services website. So that link basically is within our Procurement and Warehousing Services website.
Okay, so I have the link to the DemandStar. Where is the link for your direct site?
I think it's a very long link lengthwise, and I think that was provided probably within the chat area.
It's in the chat, Jared, but we will send it. Everything will be sent out to you in an email to recap for today, to make it a lot easier for you. Okay.
Great.
So we don't want to lose you. We want to make sure you're staying with Chuck so that you're not losing any of the information. So all of the abstract information we will provide to you in the form of an email.
Right. If you have any questions about this, you can contact somebody in the EDDC department, or you can email me. I can help you very much on trying to locate if there's a bid or RFP out there, or how to download the bid or RFP. So it's not like you're out there blindfolded. Okay. The purchasing agents are here to help the prospective bidders and proposers to be able to win a contract or an award by placing a bid or proposal. So don't think you're out there alone.
I appreciate that. It's very comforting what you're saying.
Yeah.
So thanks so much.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
We had a question. It was kind of generic about explain more about the ITB, but I think you touched on it as when you were talking about if you had a physical product, that would be more of an ITB or a tangible where everybody has the same thing. The best example I had for ITB is copy paper.
Yes.
So that could be an ITB versus speech language services would tend to be more of an RFP.
Yeah. Now, to tell you the truth, also, an RFP that would have, I guess, goods or equipment that's purchased, a good example of this is technology bids. a lot of times we will have, computers set up on RFPs because it's not just price that is the determining factor. You have to consider all different types of factors when you're purchasing equipment, like customer service and, equipment warranty and so forth. So that's a perfect example of having an RFP with goods and services involved. Okay. So we're going to start now with a sample of one of my RFPs that I put out. But what I put first in here are the addendums so that you can see what an addendum looks like and basically what it changes. So basically we receive questions, which is part of the RFP, so that you can get your answers to questions that you have that you don't understand within the RFP. That I'm going to show you in a brief second here. But we also, if we have to replace a paragraph or change wording in a paragraph or so forth, we will let you know. It says replace the 5th paragraph in section 4.4.4 to read, okay? And I like to highlight what the changes are, because by looking at this, if I didn't highlight, it would be very difficult to assume what did we change. So for me, I like doing that so that so you're not fussing around on something that's going to take you a while to figure out, what did we change? So basically, this is one of the addendums. You can turn the page now. Oops, you can go further. Oh, can you go back up? Well, basically here they're showing what types of questions can be asked, like what are the rates being charged by current vendors for these services. Sometimes we refer to another question because if somebody has already asked that question, then you just go back up to where question 13 is and look for the answer that is provided for you. I don't know if we can go back up to 13. Okay, what we did here, we provided a link that has all the incumbent vendors' names and fee rates provided for SLP services. So basically what you do is you take this link, you can either right-click it and open the hyperlink to it, or copy and paste this link into your browser. And this will show you what it's called contract award information. And this lists every single vendor that was awarded the contract and what their pricing is for a speech language pathologist and an audiologist. So later on, I don't know if you're going to get a copy of this RFP, but you can test that out by going to this link and it will give you an example of the information that's provided to you.
I just want to clarify that we did email the RFP, a copy of this to our attendees, so you can follow along.
Okay, so this you can look at yourself and basically see the information. Now, we do have on our purchasing website, we've listed a copy of basically all of our contracts, who was awarded, what the price is, the awarded price, and so forth. So basically, you'll want to go through our website, and I believe it's contracts or something like that that's on the website that you can look at and it has every single contract that we have, the start date of the contract, the expiration date of the contract. Now, with the expiration date of the contract, this is important to know that for me, what I do, okay, it might be slightly different from other purchasing agents, but what I do is I work on it a year ahead of time, okay, because of all the processes that we have to do with the RFP, write it up, send it out, get the proposals in, have an evaluation meeting, and then from the recommended awards, I have to type out agreements for each one. Those agreements are eventually sent to you, and then they're signed, sent back, and then I have to set them up on an agenda item. And even that's a lot of work to do. So that's why I do many of this a year in advance. We don't want to be out of contract. So in other words, a lapse of a contract, because that can hurt the services of the district. So again, so if I have this bid coming up for bid for speech therapy services, you may want to look on the website to see if I've released another RFP. Now, also with this to state is we have 2 one-year renewals, okay, that is built into the contract term. So if the user department wants to renew the contract in all of the awarded vendors for a year, they can do that. But normally for these services, I rebid them at the end of the contract because this lets additional vendors come in to have a chance to be awarded the contract, okay? So it's not necessarily I've got to wait 5 years, because our terms of our contracts are generally 3 years, and then have to wait 5 years for its release. So I usually do this on mine so that we can get additional vendors. Okay. Okay, they're bringing up what is basically, and you can see at the top here, the link, www.browardschools.com/PWS. That is the start to go to our procurement and warehouse services website. Now, what I was just discussing, you'll want to go over here under district contracts and bids to click on district contracts. Okay, so you'll want to scroll down farther. We also show on here a commodity list, a guide list. For example, I do business operation services. So these are a lot of my different areas that I service. So it's a lot more than what I originally stated, but at least it gives you an idea what I handle. And again, it goes into different areas, different services and commodity and goods like academics, business operation products, facilities and maintenance, food services. Yep, we buy food for the students. And those are all done on an ITB. Ground structure, human resources. I also handle human resources as well. So, and again, we've got transportation and logics, which we also have field trips and buses. That's been a very important part of bidding because we want to be able to supply schools with buses so that the kids can take their field trips. Now, the buses we also use are the yellow buses and the motor coach service. So there are 2 different types of transportation that we use for for the students to get to their field trips or wherever they're going. It could be sports events, okay, as well. So if we can go back up. Now in this section, you can search for a certain bid if you want to. But right now what I'm going to, I guess you can put an example up there if you want to. But let's see, let's bring up FY 20-001. Oh, we have to put, yeah, down at the bottom there. 001. And what that bid number is for my occupational and physical therapy services. So we just hit the submit button. And again, it brings up the award. The FY 20-001 is the bid number, tells you it's a service, and the expiration date of June 30th, 2022. Yes, we are going to resend this bid out for bid. So you may want to look at this information to see if your services would apply for occupational and physical therapy services. If you can click on the name of the link, it will show you what our contract award information looks like. So basically, this is a detail of the award information for this contract FY 20-001. And first, and it gives you the start date and the expiration date of the contract, who is the purchasing agent, email and phone number. It gives you a background to explain what this RFP is and what it does. We want to list the MWBE vendors that have been awarded the contract, so that when they go down to use a vendor, they can say, oh, this is a MWBE vendor, let's use this vendor, okay? And basically the award to all vendors who meet a score of 70 points and higher. So that is what brings you into the you may want to go back up again. There we go. It does provide the username and address as to the user department. It provides a point of contact. So when the bid is not on the street, you can contact Deborah Harrington if you have any questions about the service itself. And it does provide a phone number there for you. Now, once the RFP has been released, we have what is called a cone of silence, which means you cannot contact anyone except for the purchasing agent. That means board members, any type of, basically anybody within the district. You can't contact, so you'd have to be able, the only person you can email or phone call would be the purchasing agent. So we can go down farther. This gives you the vendor who was awarded the contracts information and their pricing per hour, so that when you, this is a good example to look at before you submit a proposal, so that you know that your pricing will be competitive with the other vendors. So I do mark on here if it's a SMWBE vendor, just again to let the user department know that they would be dealing with a small minority or women business enterprise vendor. So this has about 50 different vendors on here. So this can get kind of long here, but again, I just wanted to show you, excuse me, the information of what this looks like if you want to see the contract award information. Again, it gives you the start date, the expiration date, So basically, you can get more information from this before you submit a bid or proposal. Okay. So before I go back, yes.
I'm sorry, we have a question from Terry.
Sure.
When or how can we tell if the bid is in the cone of silence? Period. Can you repeat this again, please?
Yes. If the bid or the ITB or the RFP is on Demand Star, that means that the solicitation has been released, which means the cone of silence goes in effect the day and time that was posted on Demand Star, and that cone of silence goes all the way through until the board has acted to award the item, that contract. So during that whole time, okay, from the release to when the board has acted on the bid or RFP, the cone of silence is in effect. I hope that answers your question. Okay, great. Now, just to let you know too, that if that cone of silence was violated, that means your proposal or bid would be rejected, because that is a major concern, especially during a competitive bid solicitation, that the communication is only between you and the purchasing agent and not with anybody else. Okay, so we can skip the rest of this. I basically am showing you what the questions are like. You can read many of these questions on your own. Again, it provides the information that you need in order to provide the best proposal or bid for the district. We had a lot of questions. Okay, I just wanted to show you this real quick. In this RFP, the speech pathologists are given a computer from the district to use. So this is just a sample of the form that would need to be filled out so that you're authorized to use a school board computer for the services. So you'll want to scroll down farther. Okay, and policy 5306 is important because this basically tells what are kind of the restrictions that you're able to, basically the restrictions of what you can't do, you know, when you have a school board computer. So it does provide what you can do and what you can't do. I think this is a couple of pages. So you'll want to go to the start of the RFP, the page. This is just to provide you an example of what we can provide you. There, I believe there was a question regarding spending utilization on the contract. So we can provide you, excuse me, with a report that can tell you as of November 22nd, 2019, this is the amount of dollars that we issued in purchase orders. Not that's been paid, but the amount of purchase order dollars that we've issued to each vendor. Now, just to let you know, this is a very large contract. Right now, I believe the spending authority could be up to $30 million. So this is a very large contract. And as you can see, it's very high in demand for the students because of speech impediments or hearing impediments. Okay, we can move down to the first page of the RFP. This is what you'll see on the first page of the RFP. Basically, what you're going to need to do is just read this carefully. There's a typo up here. It shouldn't be Harmony Cleveland. It should be Mr. High, but that does happen. Some mistakes do happen on the RFPs. But my email address is given so that if you need to contact me, you're able to contact me through email. And again, what is stated on here, once this solicitation is released to the general public, the cone of silence, which you will see in General Conditions 7.45, shall take effect. Any proposer or lobbyist of proposer is prohibited from having communications concerning any solicitation for a competitive procurement with any school board member, the superintendent, any evaluation committee members, or any other school district employee after purchasing and warehouse services releases a solicitation to the public. All communications must go through the purchasing agent. Somehow I have some feedback here. Okay, we can go farther down. Again, this talks about the supplier diversity outreach program participation. This gives you information, general information about the program. If by some, and I hope this doesn't happen, but if by some chance that you're unable to bid on this, you can refer to attachment L, which is statement of no bid. So basically you would just come back and say, we can't bid this, we can't meet the specifications of the bid or RFP. So we can go further. This is just a cover page here. And it, just want to go back up real quick. It does provide you general information of the release date, especially when questions are due. So basically, questions are due by 5 p.m. for this solicitation on November 21st, 2019. So that means all your questions need to be emailed to me by that date and time. We're not obligated to respond to any late questions, but if I feel it's extremely important, then I will respond to that question. And another is proposal due date. Okay, it has to be, the proposals have to be submitted on or before 2 p.m. on this date, December 12th, 2019. So if you come in at 2:15 on December 19th and deliver your proposal, that is considered a late proposal and is not considered. Now, there might be a special condition or something that something happened, you know, that say the delivery FedEx didn't get it here on time or whatever, then the director of purchasing would get this information to determine whether we should accept or reject the proposal. But if it's something where this proposal could have been submitted on December 11th, which I highly recommend to have it in a day before the due date, because you don't know what can happen, you know, or what traffic jams you might get into. So my recommendation is that you have it in a day ahead of time, so you don't lose out in having your proposal rejected that you worked so hard on, and it being received late. Okay, let's move down to this. Basically just gives you a table of contents of where you can find this information. Attachment A is very important. We will see this later on when we move through the RFP. This basically provides you with the forms that you will use, and again, we'll have a separate, I guess, presentation from the EDDC department going over how to use these forms during an RFP. Attachment B is very important because this describes any potential interest or conflicts of employment or contractual relationship. Why we need this form filled out and provided this information, you know, you could say that this is just hypothetical here, that the person who is submitting the bid has a relationship, say, with the purchasing agent or something. That's not good. So you'll want to, if you have that type of potential conflict, then you would fill out that form and list the person. Now, if you don't have anybody, you still have to submit the form and just write none, you know, where you would fill in information. Attachment C is the W-9 form. We just need to have that filled out and submitted. We do use this form if you're a new vendor to set up in our system if we need it. Attachment D is drug-free workplace. You would fill that out. The only time really that this form is really used is if we have a tie bid. So I will go over that in a little bit for that. Attachment E is also very important. It is the sample agreement that we use to award the contract. Now, this one also has a HIPAA business associate agreement because, number one, you're dealing with medical type issues regarding this service. So we have to have the HIPAA form agreement signed as well as the agreement itself. But at least you'll be able to find what kind of conditions and so forth are asked in the agreement. You do not need to fill this agreement out at all. It's just there for visual for you to review. Attachment F is the certification of barment and suspension. This lets us know if your company has been debarred from a contract. This means any type of contract. So if you have, then you don't submit the form, okay? By signing the form, you're stating that your company has never had a debarment or suspension from a contract. Attachment G, we don't put in our RFPs anymore. This is an ACH payment form, and to tell you the truth, that is personal information, and we felt that that should no longer be in the RFP. But when you register on our site under the e-procurement website tab on there, that's when you would put your ACH payment information in there. Attachment H is the workman's compensation affidavit. This goes along with the insurance requirement as provided in the RFP. And what this is if you have 4 employees or less, okay, and this would usually apply to individuals that would offer a proposal under this RFP, they would need to fill out this form and submit it to Exegis, which again, this will be provided in a few minutes, so that they have this filled out. So this basically waives the requirement for workman's compensation under your contract. Attachment I is important. We need to have this filled out to get any references we needed that you recommend. Attachment J is because this works around schools, we want to provide the proposer the link of the calendar so that they know what the days off for teacher planning days are. Attachment K is a mailing label, which we help to give you. So basically, you just have to cut it out and put it on your box when you submit the proposal. And then attachment L, as I said before, is no response. If you plan on not bidding, it also helps us to understand why you didn't bid. Okay, we can move on. Okay, this page is very important. this is called the required response form. And this provides you when the due date is, the RFP number, the release date, the purchasing agent, the speech length, the title of the RFP. And also what's important is it tells you what you need to submit. So you need one complete original hard copy proposal. Hard copy, we mean paper copy, okay? Clearly marked as such, and one complete original electronic version, okay? So what you would do is use a flash drive to download your entire RFP, entire RFP. Any attachments or whatever you're sending, that basically mimics the original proposal, the original hard copy proposal. So the electronic version should be in PDF or a flash on a flash drive and must be identical to the original proposal. So again, this form must be fully executed, and fully executed, if you can move the screen down a little bit. Keep going. Okay, stop. Fully executed means all of this information here under the required response form needs to be filled out and submitted with your proposal. By signing the proposal, okay, you want to move it up a little bit more or go down. Okay. At the bottom here, proposer agrees to be bound to any and all specification, terms and conditions contained in the request for proposal, and any released addenda understand that the following are requirements of this RFP, and failure to comply may result in disqualification. So it depends on the issue that's involved if your proposal would be disqualified. What you need to do. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's from Terrence.
Okay.
Is this about service and not commodity?
This is what the RFP is just a service. It doesn't have any equipment or supplies or anything that is involved in this RFP. Does that help?
Terrence, you can unmute your mic. Terrence? Okay, we can keep moving.
Okay. Now the signature we like to have in blue ink. You may want to go up. Yeah. It says please sign all originals in blue ink, because if you sign in black, it's going to look like a photographic copy. So that's why we usually tell people, our proposers, to sign in blue ink, so that we know that this just isn't a photograph copy, that it is an actual signature on this document here. Okay, we can move on. So we come to the introduction. The introduction is basically telling you about the service, who we need. We need speech pathologists and audiologists. It is also provides you basically what the service entails. It's just a general overview of basically what the service is and what is required. We can go farther down. Oops, did we skip? I think we missed page 37. There we go. Okay. This also goes into the introduction about price adjustments. The prices have to remain firm for the first 3 years of the contract. After that time, you can request for a price adjustment, which would be basically the first renewal of the contract. But most of the time on this, we usually don't use the renewals. Excuse me. And we go ahead and rebid the item so that we can get new proposers into the awarded areas of the service. Basically, this is submittal of proposal. I'll let you read that. 2.6 is the evaluation and award. Basically, all proposals received must meet the minimum eligibility requirements as stated in section 4.2 of the RFP to be further considered for evaluation. Failure to meet the minimum eligibility requirements shall result in disqualification of entire proposal and shall not be considered for further evaluation. So when we get to minimum eligibility, which you'll see in a few minutes, you really need to focus on that section and what is required of that section. So again, I said this before, if it requires you to send a copy of the certification for an audiologist, you gotta put it with your proposal in there. So also within this section is this general condition clause, and we'll go over that later, liability. Is not subject to negotiation, and any proposal that fails to accept these conditions will be rejected as non-responsive. So that is extremely important. There is a place where you can check mark the box in there that basically says, yes, I fully agree with general condition 7.1 of the liability. This next paragraph basically goes over the different sections, the experience and qualification, scope of services, the cost, and the minority women business participation as part of the evaluation that will be scored under the RFP. Okay, we can go to the next page. The next page, we provide you a calendar. So this is very important to look at this, to know the due dates. The evaluation committee meeting, okay, is open to the public, except for the closed door meetings. Now, the closed door meetings would be anything like if the committee members have specific questions that they want to ask the proposer, then we either or, depending on whether this is going to be virtual or in person. In person, we do ask all of the proposers to leave the room while we ask the questions to the proposer. And then they're brought back into the room if there are any other further information that we need to follow through in the RFP. But any questions or negotiation sessions are exempt from public hearing. So basically, these are important dates that will be provided to you. We can go on to the next page. Now, this is the section. It says information to be included in the submitted proposal. In your proposal or binder, we prefer to have the proposal submitted, the paper copy, in a 3-ring binder, because it keeps everything in place. If you don't do that, excuse me for a second. Sometimes my throat gets dry here. If you don't put it in a 3-ring binder, then it could get all mixed up, and that's not something that me as a purchasing agent wants to spend time doing, is to re-put together your proposal. So basically, it provides you with you have to provide the proposal with a title page, table of contents, letter of transmittal. This includes the names of persons who will be authorized to make representations for the proposer, their titles, address, and telephone numbers. And basically, the letter of transmittal also goes into just a short little paragraph of what you do, and that, you know, I can perform these services that are under this RFP. And also, you have to have the required response form attached in there with all required information completed and all signatures as specified, blue ink preferred on original. Any modifications or alterations to this form shall not be accepted and proposal will be rejected. So basically what you want to do, you know, basically photocopy or put that in a PDF where you can actually fill in that information on the required response form. Now, section 4.1.5, basically when we write up your agreement, we have to know the notice of provision, who a copy of that we would need to know if there's any type of situation going on or whatever, that we have to notify your staff basically about the agreement or just any situation that could come up. So we do need the title, name and title and address and email address of awardee's representative for notices that would be under the RFP. And also you can provide with a copy to the same thing. But mainly for the name and title, we do need the email address so we can contact you if needed. Okay, here comes the big section. Minimum eligibility. It says to be considered for an award and to be further evaluated, proposers must meet or exceed the following criteria as of the opening date of the proposal. Failure to provide the information requested below will result in disqualification of proposal. Now, again, as I said, we don't want to reject your proposal. We want to make sure everything's there so that we can consider your proposal for the evaluation committee. The proposer is responsible for providing the following information in its response. The proposer must also include a statement of acknowledgement for each item below. So when you respond, we want this, and I've had this happen in different proposals, where some of this information is somewhere else in the proposal. I don't want to have to be able, as a purchasing agent, to have to look for this information and decide, is this part of the minimum eligibility? We want you to follow this exact format and then list this 4.2.1. Again, this is the section of liability. Will your company meet or exceed the requirements of section 7.1 for this contract? Okay. If you check yes, fine, no problem. But if you check no, your contract or your proposal would be rejected because this is a main section of the contract. And of course, I have had this happen before where somebody check marked both boxes. That's a no-no. Do not check both boxes. We want either a yes or no. And if you go down here, again, I have provided again, if you're an individual submitting the RFP, this is going to be a requirement. I've gone over what that a requirement was before, and also for company and firms. Now, section 4.2.3, this is for both individuals and firms. So both both have to answer this section as it's required, okay? So this requires references can provide this proof in a letter by submitting the years of service. So when you get a reference, we want them to put in the letter that, I don't know, just say company A, okay, they have been providing business. Now they write the letter, you don't write the letter. That this company has used your services for the past 10 years, okay? That's very important because that lets me know that yes, you've met the 3 years experience, okay, in providing the required services. So we can move on. We can go to the next page, which I think is 41. Okay. Now, what I said before, this is split again into 4 different sections, the experience and qualifications. And again, I will let you read through this. It does require information to be provided. Just make sure that when you answer these questions, it's not like yes, period. Okay. You want to elaborate because you're the one that's selling your experience, okay, under this proposal. The more information we have, the better we can evaluate the proposal. So again, you want to elaborate in these areas in your proposal. We can go down to the next page. We can go to the next page.
Are you seeing it moving, Chuck?
No, you need to, I think you went a couple of pages. Go back farther.
This is where the proposals
Yes,
experience.
page
Okay.
42.
This is page 42. Are you seeing it?
No.
This is page 42.
No, it's still on 41, it looks
41.
like. See if you can click, your mouse is over 42, so see if you can click to see
Yeah.
if it's
Just click your mouse.
Yeah, I am.
it might be responding slowly.
It may be slow, yeah.
Mhm.
So let me stop sharing and then I will share it again.
Wait, Charles just said he saw 42.
Yeah, but for some reason she can't click on it to move it. Okay. All right. This is the start of the scope of services. Again, this was number 2 in the information that I started out with, talking about scope of services and performance specifications. So basically, this is what is required of the proposer in order to meet the services needed to perform under the contract. So for example, awardees shall offer services for speech language pathologists and audiologists that hold a current active professional license in speech language pathology or audiology according to Florida law, and it says see these sections, and agree to provide copies of a current active professional license and certifications in speech language pathology and or audiology prior to acceptance for placement. Now, I believe in 4.41, 4.4.1.4 and 4.4.1.5 explains what the law is, and that you've basically, in the minimum eligibility, I believe you've already, provided these licenses. So basically, you can type in here, yes, can comply, or check mark it, or whatever. In this other column, yes, can comply, but with stated deviations. Okay, you can check mark that, and then you could say something. This is just a hypothetical answer, that the license will be provided when work is required or something like that. And no, cannot comply or provide, you would check mark that box just to let us know you can't provide that type of service. Excuse me. So again, I will let you read this on your own. This is basically what is required to be able to provide the services under this RFP. And again, like 4.4.2.4, it says that these employees have to pass the Special Investigative Unit Department basically screening process. If they fail to meet the screening process, then they cannot be used for services under this contract. The Special Investigative Unit is basically SBBC's police department, okay? So you'll want to be able to make sure that the people that you are suggesting to be placed on the contract should have a clean record. Now, also, it says all speech language pathologists and or audiologists must utilize the STAR system. The STAR system is basically a login system, and it can also be used, say, for example, if you're not under contract, it will take your driver's license and also make a photo ID of you that you basically stick to your shirt. And that lets people know that you've logged in and have met the procedures under the STAR system, and to document attendance at the assigned location. So I just wanted to point that out, that, the employees have to meet, the requirements for the Florida Department of Investigative Unit to meet those requirements, which later you could basically go to the Special Investigative Unit website, and it lets you know what areas, I guess, of criminal intent is acceptable and not acceptable. So I will let you do that on your own. So we can go to, I think we could probably skip and go to the cost section.
Okay.
I don't want to bore them with this.
The cost section. How many pages with this?
Yes, right there.
This here. Okay, got it.
I just wanted to point out, you can go back up a little bit.
Okay.
This 4.4.2.20, basically it's saying that the proposer agrees to all terms and conditions as stated in attachment E, which is the sample agreement and business associate agreement. You will either, again, say, yes, I can comply, yes, but with these deviations, okay? Just be careful if you have to change the condition, that you're not changing 7.1. That's a big no-no. Again, the liability section. And or no, cannot comply or provide. That would be a big problem too, if you basically check mark that and you can't comply with the RFP. So let's move down to the cost section. So basically, we're allowing 20 points for this. The proposer must state the firm fixed hourly price for the descriptions of service as should be listed below, and the scope of service, listed above in the scope of services and performance specifications from 4.4.2.1 through 4.4.2.21. The right to negotiate all costs remains with the ESLS division. So they may come back and say, can you lower your rate by $1? Now, your contract allows you, or the agreement allows you to give us what is called an extra educational discount, okay? So that doesn't mean that, that this, say, $34 an hour is strictly firm. I mean, you could say for a month, I will reduce the cost by $1, okay? It doesn't have to be firm, okay? But they do have the right to do that if they need to do that. Now, says failure to follow the exact format as stated below shall result in disqualification of entire proposal. I've had it where some proposers come back with a totally different version than what was asked in the cost of services. We want to have a uniform contract. So we can't use something that goes totally different than what we're asking here for section 4.4.3.1 or 4.4.3.2. So you'll want to keep this exactly the same as it is offered to you in the proposal. We also provide you information of how the cost of points will be calculated. So basically, if proposer A submits a cost of $40 an hour and proposer B submits a total cost of $50 an hour, and proposer C submits a cost of $60 an hour, proposal A would receive 100% of the points, which was the maximum is 20 points, allowed for the cost of service criteria. Proposer B would receive 80% or 16 points because you're dividing the lowest cost into the next higher cost. And proposer C would receive 81% or 16 points, $40 because you're dividing the lowest into even the next highest cost. So how 81 points or 81% is done is dividing these two figures. You come up with 0.81 something, 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 okay? So that turns into a percentage from that, and that's multiplied by the maximum point value of 20 points. Will provide you what the actual score should be is 16 points based on this division here. Now you can also submit jobs for both titles. So basically what you're going to do is take the points for 4.4.3.1 and the score that you got for 4.4.3.2, add them together, divide by 2, and this will provide you an average points for that section. So again, total points, 97 points plus 92 points equals 108. This is hypothetical, okay? So it's just showing you how we would do this. So 97 points plus 92 points equals 189 points divided by 2 will give you an average score of 94.5 or 19 points. We like to round up whenever it's needed to do that, so that you get the correct points for that section.
Chuck, if we could pause for a quick second to see if there's anyone that has questions based on what you just went through.
Okay.
This is your opportunity to get clarification. Okay. Seems like everyone's okay, so we could keep moving.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll go to the next section. Now, the next section, it depends on the participation that the EDDC will come up with based on an affirmative procurement initiative. We also call this an API. And they will come back to us, the purchasing agent, and say that we basically want to award this based on this policy number, section, and the GSC. I'm not sure what GSC means, but establish the MWBE evaluation preference for the best value RFPs. So they'll be, I don't know if you guys want to go over this with them. Basically how you do this. Oh, goals. Thank you for clearing that, Robert. GSC means Goal Setting Committee. So they have a committee that determines what best to use for the type of solicitation that they need to, that is being offered. So they will research it and come up with a determination of what to use. They determined here the MWBE evaluation preference for best value RFPs.
In session 2, next week, our compliance team will go through the information for the MWB participation, and we will have some exercises. So stay tuned for that in session 2.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to comment on anything in this section.
Not today, because they're going to go through it very detailed at the next session.
Okay. All right. Basically, this is giving you information as defined as to what an SBE is and any information that you would need to know in order to provide the information for MWB participation for your proposal. And again, this will be brought up at another meeting on how they go about doing this and determining what type of factor is going to be used. But based on this best value RFPs, if you go down farther, it does provide you with the website for SDOP. So that's important if you want to go and just review the website, and it provides you a lot of information there in order to establish your firm as a SMWBE vendor.
We have since acquired our own website, and we'll be putting the new website address.
Oh, sorry. That's right. That's right. You guys have a new website. Yeah, because this bid is over a year old, so.
Yeah.
And basically, if you look in this area, they will provide you what the maximum points will be awarded based on the type of solicitation that they are offering, that they want to follow under this RFP. For example, 15 MWBE evaluation preference points are awarded if proposer commits 100% of the value of the work to be performed by MWBE firms. So that's pretty self-explanatory. So if you're certified with, the EDDC office as a MWBE firm, you're basically committing your services at 100%. So you would receive 15 points for that. 7.5 MWBE evaluation preference points is awarded for MWBE participation that is at least 15% or up to 20% of the total contract value. And I want to stress the total contract value, okay? So anyway, if you're going to award at least, like say for example, if you're using a subcontractor that is an MWBE and you're allowing 15% of the total contract value. Now this would be a little difficult on this contract because it's not like you have the whole contract, but the contract is split into different vendors. So I guess they could help you to figure out what the total contract may be for your situation, or what is spent during the contract value for each year. That will, because the user department is the one that uses your service. So it would be basically part of how much of the order was paid to you regarding the service. And so basically it provides you the different points on how things will be awarded under the MWBE section of the RFP. Okay, Jared has a question.
Go ahead, Jared. You can unmute your mic to ask your question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We recently attempted to bid on a project. It wasn't through DemandStar, it was for another entity. But apparently we weren't eligible because we weren't awarded on a bigger part of the bid. And I think you just mentioned something to that effect. So this particular bid that you're discussing that may be awarded to multiple vendors, are there instances where you might be awarded on this bid, but not for any particular work, and then later down the line, there's another bid with a particular assignment that you have to bid on, but you won't be eligible for unless you've already been awarded on the parent bid? I'm not sure the terminology.
This would not be split up into different bids. Basically, you're on this bid, and whatever work, I guess, you perform under this contract, that is part of your total contract value, okay? Or if you're 100%, you're performing all of your work, you know, basically your company to this contract. So it depends on, especially if you're using a subcontractor, how much services are used during this. And again, you know, it's a little more difficult with this because the user department is the one who uses your service. And, you know, you could basically go to them and say, I want more service, you know, and they could probably accommodate you with that. So it really depends. I believe I guess the EDDC office can basically state.
I think Jared's comment was more contract in total, not just the diversity specific. Wasn't really on this on 4.4.1. It was in general. Is that right, Jared?
Yes. Is there a scenario where, okay, for instance, my example was that I went to bid on a contract, and I was told that since I wasn't awarded on a previous contract, which apparently this contract was under, that I wouldn't be eligible to bid on that contract. Is there scenarios like that?
He's describing like a master agreement, like almost like a pre-qualification contract. I don't know if we do that kind of stuff here. Do we, Chuck?
No. What this is each RFP is its own bid. Okay.
Okay.
We don't go, well, because you were awarded under bid number A, that you can't bid on bid number B, you know?
Okay.
So it's like starting all over when you bid on a different bid number.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
We do have a question from Terry. It
Okay.
says, when there's one bid with multiple types of commodities, and I only specialize in 1 to 2 of them, may I still bid?
Can you give me a more, I guess, clear question? Maybe I could understand it a little more. When you say one bid, I know one bid, but
so like, let's say you did a bid on, and there were 6 commodities in the area, and I'm gonna just pick on office supplies because that's easy. You know, pens, pencils, scissors, glue, and paper. I only sell scissors and glue. Could I still bid? Or, you know, did the bid say that you have to supply everything?
Okay, that's a good question. When that would be more of an ITB, invitation to bid. Now, it depends on how the items are set up by the purchasing agent. He or she may have different items put together is called a group award. So you may have, you know, pens, paper, whatever, in one group setting. So you can have as many items in a group setting, but it will say you have to bid on all items in the group in order to be considered for award. Okay.
But the way we do it here at the district, we would define it in the solicitation that, hey, you have to provide all these 6, or you can price independently.
No, they would have to set those items up independently.
That's what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah.
That we would be clear in the solicitation, and that would be a great question to ask during the RFI process to get clarification.
Yes. Yeah. If you especially on the ITB, if you could ask them, you know, that item 1A through E, why are these grouped? These should be individually bid or something like that. You know, they can the purchasing agent can separate them, but it depends on the situation on how they're purchased. Okay. So again, that you'd have to ask the individual purchasing agent if that can be done.
And just for the record, the way to ask that question is during the RFI process before the bid closes.
Yeah, you may want to correct yourself. It should be ITB, because the RFI we don't award. It's basically just to get information. Okay.
Okay.
So normally I send out RFIs if I know there's only one bidder that can bid this type of service. I will want to find, are there other bidders out there? And so we put out the RFI for them to provide information on their service to see if, is this truly a sole source vendor or not? So,
so point of information to that point.
Yeah.
If a supplier has a question during the open period, what is the process to ask that question?
Well, normally in the solicitation, it will provide you to say all written questions are due on this certain date. You can ask whatever questions you want. And then that would be answered in an addendum back to the proposers or bidders so that they understand, what the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So again, an RFI is only to request for information, and the solicitations that are awarded are either an ITB or an RFP. Okay. Section 5 is the evaluation of proposals. This is how the evaluation committee will look at your proposal, and I basically have told you what the categories were before: experience and qualification, scope of services, cost of services, and supplier diversity outreach program. Okay, the supplier diversity outreach program section is allowed 15 points. Now, those points will be provided by the EDDC office. So they will have something already prepared for the evaluation meeting to come up with each proposer's point value that they feel met the category for that section. The cost of services, that's normally from the procurement department. We basically do a spreadsheet and compare your costs to other costs and come up with a point value, which I basically already went over in the cost section. And the two sections that are evaluated by the committee are experience and qualification and scope of services. And they show the maximum points here that are assigned to each category. And the individual committee member will, and it depends on how many committee members are assigned to this proposal, and that's usually by the user department. They can have the minimum number of committee members is 3 to make a quorum. They could have anywhere from 3 to 10 to 12 to 15. In fact, our benefits RFPs, which would be our medical health services and stuff, I mean, we have a good 20, 25 people on that committee. So again, that varies depending on the type of solicitation that is put out. So they only, for our type of solicitations, not the benefits solicitation that I just talked about, the committee members actually score on A and B. The purchasing department will provide the point value for C, and EDDC office will provide the point value for section D here of category. And again, this goes into how they're going to assign points for this section. You can scroll up a little more. And basically this goes into the committee reserves the right to ask questions of a clarifying nature once proposals have been open and require presentations from all proposers. Now, normally they do ask questions. That's when we go into the break rooms that are secluded from other proposers, and they ask questions about their proposals so that they can get a better understanding of the service that they're going to be offering. And presentations, we usually write that into the RFP just to let proposers know that there will be a time session that the proposer can offer some sort of presentation to the committee members. And they do score that. There would be, at the top, there would have been a 5th area that they would score, which would be for presentations if they want to have presentations done. So the committee members can interview any or all proposals that respond to the RFP or make their recommendations based solely on the information contained in the proposals submitted. Presentations, if required, will be part of the evaluation process. And section 5.3 goes into the process that the committee goes through in order to recommend an awardee or multiple awardees to the for this RFP. So it says the committee has the discretion to recommend an award to one or more proposals or reject any or all of the submitted proposals. So that would be discussed during the session, the evaluation session. So they could come up and basically say, you know, no, there are no proposals that meet what we want to do. If that's the case, then most likely the RFP would have to be rebid again and whatever specifications corrected for the next time it goes out. The committee also has the discretion to commence negotiations with ranked responsive proposers if the committee so chooses to do so. So the committee really has such a flexibility in awarding this contract. So what they can do is go through negotiations with one or more proposers and determine from that who they would recommend for award. During any such negotiations, the committee reserves the right to negotiate any term. I think I said this before. Negotiate any term, conditions, specification, or price other than those found and specified in section 4.2 and section 7.1 of this RFP. Section 4.2 was the minimum eligibility, and section 7.1 was the liability section of the RFP. During an exempt negotiation session with the highest ranked responsible proposer, each ranked responsible proposal must be represented during its exempt negotiation session by an authorized representative possessing the authority to bind the proposer to the changes made to their proposal. So in other words, when we go into negotiations, we have to have somebody there that is an authorized representative of that proposal and company so that we can make changes to the proposal itself. And usually those changes will go into a written agreement, which is basically sent to the board for approval. It says the committee will recess the open portion of the evaluation meeting and conduct an exempt negotiation session of the competitive selection process, excuse me, beginning with the highest ranked responsive proposer as determined by section 5.1, which was at the top of this page, of the RFP. So basically, as I said before, when we go into negotiations, those are closed door sessions. So that's basically what that is saying. In accordance with section 286.0113, part 2, Florida statutes, any negotiation session will be conducted to the exclusion of other ranked responsive proposers of what I just said. The committee may choose to conduct one or more exempt negotiation session with a ranked responsible proposer. I've also mentioned that before. The committee shall reconvene the open portion of the evaluation meeting and determine, with every committee member there, by motion and roll call vote, whether to recommend an award to one or more ranked. You'll have to move it up the page. Responsive proposers, or may declare an impasse with a ranked. Now, when we use the word impasse, that's basically declaring that the proposer and the school board can't come to terms, a condition of the negotiation. So if you come into the negotiation and you both disagree about whatever issue you're talking about during the negotiation, the committee member can say, I think we've reached an impasse with this proposer. Now, if they do that, they have the ability to proceed to the next highest ranked proposer. So again, may declare an impasse with a ranked responsive proposer or proceed with further negotiations with one or more of the highest ranked responsive proposers. So basically, this section is just outlining the whole process that the committee members go through in order to evaluate the proposal. In section 5.4, the number of individuals to be recommended for slowly at the discretion of the committee. If a multiple award is recommended, the proposer's score of 70 points or higher will be in order to be recommended for award. So again, all of those proposals, proposal, excuse me, that that score 70 points or higher will be recommended for award based on the committee member's recommendation. And it basically also says here that an agreement will be written, and the sample agreement attached here too as attachment E shall be prepared for execution by awardee and SBBC and shall be governed by the laws of the state of Florida and must have venue established in the 17th Judicial Court of Broward County. So in other words, if there were any lawsuits that come up based on this service of this RFP, that the settlement would be handled through the Broward County courts or the United States Court of the Southern District of Florida. This agreement approved by the SBBC's General Counsel will be submitted to SBBC for final approval. But we still want to make it a point that approval shall not be a guarantee of business, a guarantee of a specified dollar volume or a minimum dollar revenue to be received under this contract. So it basically is saying, you know, you're not totally guaranteed the business, but usually under this contract, we use every single vendor that is awarded on awarded for this contract. But this is a general clause that is in all of our RFPs and ITBs solicitation.
Awesome. Well, Chuck,
Yeah.
So I think we'll go ahead and break for today until our next session.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. We can take a few questions if you do, because we have past the 12 p.m. mark, but we'll definitely make up for it in session 2, which is on the 21st. So congratulations to everyone who have stayed on the call. I don't think we've lost anyone. So you will receive the link to the second session by the end of this week. Please feel free to read ahead so you're prepared for session 2. We'll also have our compliance team speak with you in that session, as well as our certification team. So Chuck, thank you. And we look forward to
I'm
next
sorry.
week's session. Go ahead, Winnie.
Looks like Miss Stephanie has a question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Yes, hi, thank you. So I think I don't need to be on the ITB sessions, right? Because my company is software and services. And if I am understanding the difference between them, and ITB would be only, cost, you wouldn't issue an ITB for like a student information system, right? It would be an RFP.
Yeah.
So I need to withdraw from I signed up for both. I tried to find out the difference and I couldn't, so I did both. So I need to withdraw. Should I do that officially through some channel, or can I just let you know that I'm going to withdraw from the ITB sessions?
Stephanie, I just wanted to make a clear point that if it's software that is specifically asked, in the ITB, that can happen. But if you're proposing a solution, okay, that with software, then that would most likely be bid as an RFP.
Yeah, it's a student, we sell a student information system. So, there's going to be all kinds of, there are services involved, there's, there'll be all kinds of things that need to be evaluated beyond cost.
Yeah, we have a purchasing agent, Harmony Cleveland, that handles all technology solicitations and stuff. So after, I guess, this program, you can contact her and find out what type of RFPs or whatever for this student information she might have or already have.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
And Cindy, so you can go ahead, Stephanie. If you still want to withdraw from the ITB, you can let us know. But information is power. So if you can join, I recommend that you do at least sit in and listen in. And Cindy, I will send you the invite for the ITB session, and that takes place starting the following week. And if anyone else hasn't seen that as well, it's in the same place where we've registered, but I can forward that to you. So go ahead and put your email address in the chat as well. So lots of information covered. Chuck, really, really in-depth. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Look forward to our next session. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your day and look out for my email with the link for session 2. Okay, take care, everybody.
I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so do we all dismiss now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And I appreciate everybody attending this. We just want to make sure that you have full knowledge of being able to provide a solicitation for us so that we can hopefully recommend you for award.
Yay. Thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Take
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.